Is this where the career panel's going down in 30 minutes?
That's it.
Nice.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm on the panel, so anything I can do to help set up.
We've got food for you over in the FPS office.
Oh, cool.
You know where that's at? Over here?
Yeah, right at Maxie. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay. Are you?
A margarita.
Do you want to go to the dance off? See what comes from food? Yeah. Everybody else is over there.
Alright.
Thanks. No, I'm good. I'm just finishing up setup. See you in a bit. you gonna keep that something?
We get to the back. What questions you could ask us? I don't know. That's on you guys.
Just think like we're filming a movie.
Just, when does the makeup team come in?
The makeup?
Yeah.
So Margaret, do you have like childcare? Like whatever? So
I
are you
remember
like
this.
kids? Or?
No, I'm married.
Did you see Dr. Agar? I saw him.
No, I wanted to see him, and Suman brought him up today in class too.
I briefly saw him.
Where is he? Is he
I
here right
actually-
now?
With Wednesday
He's
wanting
like
my kids
talking.
to
I mean,
be
he's
like,
not teaching,
I've
so.
been traveling a lot though, so.
Yeah. No, it's definitely.
Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah, I was like,
Well,
this is not
it's
reversible,
class,
so.
right?
Yeah, exactly. You can't give them back.
As far as I
Susan,
can
you
push
know,
it,
he comes over to
I'll
my
be
lab.
okay.
Test, can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yep, the
But I've
office
been
Yes.
traveling
was
a lot
a
with
couple
my
weeks
husband,
ago.
just went skiing, it was awesome.
Can you hear me?
And then just working. I
You
work
get off the
at the
phone,
city
now
and then
call
I freelance right on the side
Is
just
it-
for fun.
This is
and
not
I
on,
love it.
right?
No, just
Oh,
that.
just that, okay.
I will.
Test, test, test.
Anything
Can you
that's
hear me?
interdisciplinary.
Test,
Yes, I love it.
You can put that up here if you want.
Huh,
So,
okay, I'm gonna put my phone on mute because I feel like
Yes.
good idea.
my
I will do the
my
same.
phone just tends to go off in strange moments.
Alright, thank you. Bye. If y'all want to write your emails up there,
Oh, that's
that's
what we
that's what we don't do.
Here? Or further to the right? Where did you go? This is like the most haphazard writing names in email.
I'm not gonna put my Rasmus one because I don't really even know the password in there.
Do you still get email? Do you still get emails on it?
I mean, I went into it a couple months ago and there were emails
I'm
on it.
waiting for, I made the mistake of forwarding all of my emails from it to my personal. And I don't,
You guys are live right now, so just, I guess, watch what you say.
That is really smart to stream it though. It definitely
Well, it's the
makes
first
more
time.
sense, yeah.
So,
Be
yeah.
recorded, obviously. So.
Did you see that from back there?
If not, they can always come up
there's
later.
someone back there.
No worries.
And yours is bigger than mine, so if they
It's
can't
fine.
read
They'll
your-
be able to,
They would have come girls with really nice handwriting.
I like her, Henry. That would
Put
be
it,
good.
put it
Put
on.
it
Where did you guys get these Paracone waters? I mean, obviously at Paracone.
and they just delivered, right?
Yeah, I think they delivered it with the
Oh, that's
sandwiches.
what, you guys got that, the food from there.
Yeah.
Oh. I like how we each picked a different color.
Yes.
Can I look at your environmental law?
Please do. I brought that to Suman's class earlier today. Helped him teach about the Endangered Species Act.
Talked
His
about NEPA at
request.
all? in that class?
What's that?
NEPA?
We always talk NEPA in there. It always comes up in some context. Arbitrary and capricious, reasonableness,
Paper tiger.
alternatives. Yes, paper. Did you take that?
Took it a long time.
You took Suman's EIS class?
I took it as an undergraduate, like 20 years ago.
20 years. Suman was here 20 years ago?
20 years ago?
He has
Almost
been
20
here.
years.
So Dr. Suman's my mentor, just so you
Sir.
know.
How you doing?
Oh.
Do you know this guy?
No, I never seen him before.
Dan, is it?
Yeah.
Very nice to meet you, sir.
How you doing?
Hey, congrats on your event at Saltwater.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
right?
sorry,
There's
I couldn't
nothing
make it,
cooler
but-
than
Oh, it's all good.
RCRA,
Yeah, a lot of people came. I don't know if they
NEPA.
came for that or
It
just
doesn't
Clean
matter, that's
Water
great.
It was
Act.
good, yeah.
Cool.
Actually,
You getting
this,
ready
I
for,
wish I had known
to go?
about this when I took.
Yeah.
How much did you
We
pay
just
for
got a bunch
This
of
was
koozies.
$5.95
At
at the
You want
Miami
some free
bookstore.
swag? I give you.
And the
No,
law
we don't
school
do
version
that.
of
We don't do
environmental law is insanely
We're,
hard. So
we're
I
just
wish
trying
I
to
had
figure out
that back then.
how much we're gonna
Okay, maybe
bring,
we need to get this.
how many people are gonna
Oh
go.
yeah, it's great.
Are you
I
working at
mean,
this year?
just for my purposes at work.
I was gonna
I
go
don't
to
deal
You
with
didn't
a
go last
whole
year.
lot
I
of
was at a-
federal
I was in a wedding
statutes
last
outside
year.
the
Oh,
Personal
okay.
Act.
Yeah.
This
But
year,
when issues
I
come
was
up,
supposed to
this
go
is
down
very
to
little.
a tournament
I
in
do
Key
some
West.
work for
Yeah,
some
Adrian
maybe
was saying
I
that
can
she
do
wanted to do that. So
Of course she did.
it.
Everybody.
You know the super.
Ellen's gonna do that because she didn't want to do Tortuga Fest. So it'll be me,
Oh, really?
Adrian, Beth, a volunteer, and a couple
Right.
other people.
Yeah, like endangered
Mike,
species.
yes, for
act
sure.
like
Maybe, I
know
don't know, I
what
saw him
endangered species
for like
are.
an hour last time.
I'm not.
No,
the
he
one
has to be
who's
there.
trying
He's
biological
on
assessments or anything
I'm
like
gonna walk
that.
on the fire. So
I certainly don't represent NGOs. So.
what time is it now?
There's a couple more who are walking over here right
Yeah,
now.
I figured people are just from
Two
too
or
far.
3 more minutes.
Yeah. I'm not worried about that. Normally there's normally pretty packed house for this. So.
Yeah, let's.
Yeah, the past two have been packed. Yeah.
I'll get the camera so you take pictures for the.
Appreciate it, yeah. So I owe you a president's message, but I'm really worried no one's going to be sending in anything else. So I'll modify the write up for this
Okay.
from what Adrian sent, from what Sandra sent, and then we'll get the stuff from GSO and NPS from who graduated this year.
Okay. And then I just need pictures. I don't have like any pictures of stuff, like the DC thing.
I sent you a whole bunch of
Did
pictures.
you send me pictures?
Yeah. They're not great. They're from my iPhone.
Okay.
They're pretty terrible, actually.
I'll have to go back and look at my email. I'm like losing like emails from people. Like I don't know. Like it just gets lost.
Gotcha. How's I'm guessing you're not doing anyway. Right?
Nicole's doing all
That's
that.
what I thought. It's good for you. I was in charge of
We
music
just planned the
and shuttles and
Just
hotels.
had to plan it on the day of a hurricane football game.
Yeah, what the heck, dude? That's what I hear.
Unbelievable.
Everybody's playing football every Saturday almost.
Well, then you do it on a
Well,
Friday
then
or
you
a Sunday.
when they
For a
have
wedding?
Yeah,
But
you do
can
it on
only
a bye.
like certain amount of like days that it's open at the.
You
the
cater
church.
to her Florida Gatorness.
It's like
Because you are a
Arkansas.
Gator at heart. We've been over this. Dan and I have a long.
Yeah, there's only
sports
like
history
X amount of
together.
slots available at St. Louis Cathedrals.
He likes the Gators
No,
and
I'm
the
just-
Eagles, which is
That's
bad
cool.
news.
Should be fun.
It will be fun, but we just planned the honeymoon
Where you guys going?
New Zealand.
Nice.
Isn't that
I
like
hope you're going for like a month.
Yeah, all of November.
Okay.
The wedding's on the 5th, and then we're coming back. We're splitting it right up to the Thanksgiving holidays.
Cool. Cool.
I just amended it to add shark diving the last day.
Nice. You want to go?
shark?
Yeah, like
Diving?
diving
That's
with
neat.
white sharks.
If you want to go sword fishing, we got a guy for you out there. Like monster sword
That's
fishing.
like North Island, like really
Yeah.
far north. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna go
Where you guys are just gonna be in
to Auckland and then renting a car and then just going down all the way to. Well, if we go to
a
Blunt,
monster sword fishing.
Shark.
white sharks.
Why do you need a cage for that, man? You can see them out here.
Nicole still doesn't even really want to do it.
I haven't seen you in so long.
It would have been neat to be back.
Yes.
Good for emails too, put it weird.
Suman's EIS class, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yes. Right there. There we go.
So we're gonna give people a couple more minutes. Do you know if people are still at the wet lab? You know?
There are
Negative?
people there.
Okay. Anyone from there that wanted to come to this? You know? Okay. That's fine. That's fine. We'll keep it small, intimate, and really simple. Give you guys a lot of time to ask questions for these. All young alumni too. So just basically right out of Erasmus. Really good time to talk to them. So just to give you introductions, my name is Peter Chaibangzai. I am the alumni president for the Rosehill School. With the help of the MPS department and advancement, we help to put these career panels every semester. This is the third one. And it's basically for you guys to ask questions, to figure out what you want to learn from these really successful people right now. Oh, sorry, I thought there was a question. What we're gonna do, just to give you the format, is we'll have an hour here to talk, and then within this arena, and then we'll move to the Commons Wet Lab area, our home away from home, and if you want some one-on-one time with these guys, to really ask some questions you don't want to ask them in public, please do that there. Also, they have their emails, contact information up here, so don't hesitate to contact them. And without further ado, I will introduce you to our career panel. First, we have Brandon McKessie, who is an assistant county attorney at Pinellas County. He is a tri degree from UM. He has undergraduate, master's, and JD. So if any of you guys are going through that program, he's definitely one to talk to. Then we have Margarita Wells, who is the environmental resource manager at the city of Miami Beach. She's a dual alum. And then we have Melissa Peleas Nava, and she is also a dual degree or graduate from UM. And just to give you a little background on some of them, they will go ahead and talk about their jobs, why they got there, and so forth. But what I want to do is I want to give you guys the opportunity to ask them questions. I don't know if you guys have been to one of these before, but it's a fairly organic atmosphere. I do have questions for them just to help spur things along, but really it's for you guys to ask them questions. But without further ado, Brendan, if you don't mind, introducing yourself a little bit more. And
Yeah, sure. Again, so my name is Brendan McKessie. I completed my undergraduate studies here in 2007. I took a few years off before deciding I wanted to pursue a law degree back here. In the course of pursuing that law degree, I participated in Dr. Suman's abroad course in China and Vietnam, which really brought all the environmental issues our world is facing to my attention. And I subsequently enrolled in the JD MPS program. So I actually got my MPS in December of 2013 after I received my law degree of May of 2012. After that point, I went up to the federal government, worked for the Obama administration in the Office of Management and Budget, did a fellowship there, and actually came to a really interesting crossroads, which we can talk about if it comes up, as to whether I wanted to go down the policy road, do another NOAA fellowship, which I ultimately turned down, or practice law. And that led me to where I am now at the Pinellas County Attorney's Office, where I represent numerous divisions, but sake of brevity, I'm basically their environmental lawyer.
I'm Margarita. I work for the City of Miami Beach in the Environment and Sustainability Department, newly created. And my career path has been a series of haphazard but fortunate events. I went down this path when I was getting my master's in marine affairs and policy, and I was having complete panic attack about what I was going to do with my life. I didn't really know. None of my classes particularly interested me enough to say, okay, this is what I want to do. And I was fortunate to get an email one night after going out where the City of Miami Beach was looking for an intern, and I sent an email. I was like, I want this internship, and I eventually got it. And it kind of sent me down on this public service path. And I liked it. It was interesting because it introduced me to natural resources management. It actually gave me the full suite of all the classes that I was taking. So I got to have my hands in everything. But then I was looking for a paid opportunity. And that was just from attending a conference. Some guy said, come to my office, I want to talk to you. And he started asking me questions. What's your expertise? We do a lot of NEPA here, and I'd never taken a class in environmental law whatsoever. So I said, well, I haven't taken a class in this, but my friend has a book from the classes she took, so I'm happy to read it if you want to hire me. And he actually offered me the job. So then that sent me in the private sector, but the position at the City of Miami Beach, a paid position, opened up, and I liked the fact that it early on in my career, it gave me the opportunity to continue to test out all of the different things that I could ever do in an environmental career. So I went back to the city, and that's where I am, and I'm very happy.
All right, and I'm Melissa Peleas Nava, and my journey through UM started in undergrad. I did communications, graduated in 2004. And quickly realized communications wasn't for me. So came back to Erasmus for the MPS and did the aquaculture track. And through that track, I met a lot of people, one of them being Pat Barkis from Gulf Coast Marine Life Center. I went through school doing little projects for him here and there. And as soon as I graduated, finished my internship, he called me up and asked me if I wanted to go over there work for him. And basically what they do, Gulf Coast Marine Life Center, they're an organization that is bring in a conglomerate of universities, regional universities that have a specialty in aquaculture, bring them together to bring stock enhancement, shellfish, marine finfish to the Gulf. So I've been with them. Right now they're on hold because of the grants coming out. They're being allocated in different ways. So from there, while we're on hold, I transitioned to Carnival Cruise Lines, came back to Miami. So here with the family again. And so just sitting out and enjoying my time right now here.
Okay. Does anybody have a question? If not, I've got plenty. Anybody? All right. So one of the things that graduate school does is obviously you take some really phenomenal classes with some great professors. But what do you, thinking about that, the three of you, and not all three of you have to answer, but what do you think that you learned? What was the most insightful thing that you learned while you were in graduate school? What was the one takeaway, or one or two takeaways that you could tell them from your time here at Rosenstiel School that you could let the crowd know?
I can tell you from a hiring perspective, not necessarily my perspective, but we get a lot of interns, and luckily we get a lot of interns actually from Rasmus. And I think the difference between an undergraduate intern and a graduate intern is that the writing that is produced by our interns is much stronger because you're forced to produce more technical papers. You are exposed to to a higher level of standard of writing. And then also from a time management perspective, because I know I had a job when I was in grad school, so I was forced to manage a lot of different projects at once. And from a time management perspective, we see a huge difference between our undergraduates and our graduate interns, and we actually prefer to hire graduates, even for internships.
Definitely. For me, I think the most important thing is putting yourself out there. Networking events, get with your school, with the marketing people, with anybody, find out if they're doing things in local schools, things you could even speak here, whatever specialty it is, or even if you have to read up on it and figure it out. But I think the most important thing is networking. That's how I got my job. As soon as I started here, just even before I started classes, I made graduate cards that said aquaculture industry, municipalized graduate student, and I just started handing them out to people I would meet. And that's how I was able to keep in touch with my future boss. And throughout those 2 years of schooling, he would call me up, projects, and even other people that I met, they would hold on to my card and call me up and be like, you said you were in communications and you have, you're studying for marine aquaculture, and I would just write up things for them. So through the process, you might not land the job right away, but you'll land little projects here and there. So just put yourself out there and try to create those opportunities for yourself.
Go ahead.
Well, I guess I probably have the simplest example in that the greatest benefit I took from graduate school was the chance to actually do a TA-ship, a teaching assistantship, with one of my professors from law school, Dr. Daniel Sunwan, who I took coastal law with there, and got to TA for the environmental law and the environmental impact statement class, of course. And that really helped me in two elements. One, it furthered my relationship with Dr. Suman, who's turned out to be a tremendous reference. Has written me awesome letters of recommendation that have probably gotten me some of the fellowships I've gotten. And number two, this applies more in the legal context, but I think it also applies in the MPS context as well. It really helped me narrow in on a specific niche. So a lot of law students, for instance, go out there, you finish at the top of the class, you move for champion, whatever. But if you don't have that specific area of law to sell your interviewer on, that you focused on, and again, that doesn't just apply to law. So we have tracks here in this MPS program for a reason, right? So thinking pragmatically, if you're going down the aquaculture track, really get to know your aquaculture professor well and understand the nuances of aquaculture and the trends. Coastal zone management, understand the challenges with the beach renourishment, which is a major crisis in Miami, of course, or, marine mammals, for instance. Understand the big debate with marine mammal captivity. So I think it really helps to get a mentor at the graduate level who can help you establish that niche that you can ultimately sell to employers when you're looking for a job.
Yeah, I was about to say, there's some really amazing professors here, and you might think of them as, oh, the professor I sometimes see at Wet Lab having a beer with his colleagues, but that professor, whether it's Dr. Benetti or Dr. Agar or Dr. Suman or any of those guys, they're world renowned and they're here for a reason. One of the things, and started to talk a little bit about it, but the one thing that if I can impress upon you guys is don't sit on your hands while you're here. You have an amazing resource here. You've got an amazing team too at MPS and GSO that are willing to help you, and you've got alumni that want to help you out. I'll give you an example. So I employed these two guys as interns, and they happen to find a job later, just happenstance. They did a great job for us, obviously, but alumni look out for students, and it's weird. I don't know how many of you guys are actually undergrad at UM, but they talk about all the time how it's family, it's family. It really is, at least for me and a lot of other alumni. It really is family. When you look at our alumni list and you look at some of the people, whether they're presidents of universities or they own their own private business or they in NOAA, they can help you, through the door, get your foot through the door. Just like Melissa was saying, don't sit on your hands, talk to professors, and really put yourself out there. One of the big things too is if you ever have the opportunity to speak in public, do it. There's got to be a junior league down here, do it. A Toastmasters, do it. You want that exposure. You want to feel comfortable, and I am not a comfortable person. I used to never be comfortable in front of people, but you have to force yourself as much as you can to be out there. It might be a little scary at first, but these guys are prime examples to showing if you put yourself out there, you can be extremely successful. Do you guys have any other questions, or I can still go ahead, please.
For those of you that chose to stay in the public sector versus the private sector, what sort of helped you in those decisions and making that choice? Because you can make more money in the private sector, but benefits in public sometimes are better. So what can improve in that direction?
Yeah, sure. I will. I was placed at an interesting crossroads in that I did have a very hefty offer from a prestigious law firm coming out of law school while I was in this program, but really hadn't started my coursework. But it wouldn't have given me the opportunity to practice environmental law, which is what I knew what I wanted to do. And believe it or not, there's not a whole lot of environmental lawyers out there in the private sector. They do exist and they can make a whole lot of money, but it's typically one or two partners at a major firm who started with the public sector. Because environmental law is all about understanding, how to work with the regulatory agencies. And in the private sector, helping your client get that permit, get that development, site plan assigned, what have you. So for me, aside from the fact that I really didn't want to sit down and bill hours and work 70 hours a week, at least not in my late 20s and early 30s, starting out in the public sector, particularly with the White House Office of Management and Budget, and now with the Pinellas County Attorney's Office, where I'm dealing with private attorneys on a day-to-day basis and negotiating deals with them, could be positioning me for a very lucrative private opportunity down the line. But with that being said, I don't want to mislead you. I find my work very rewarding. I go home at night feeling like I made a difference. And I know that sounds cliche, but if you're just helping a client to, of all things, pollute, I'd have a hard time sleeping well at night.
For me, it was 4 things, and I've had this battle, I think, throughout my entire career, and my dad hates it because he's a corporate guy through and through. He hated that I work for the government, but it's one, that the city of Miami Beach is awesome. In terms of salary, it's probably one of the higher paid environmental jobs in the public sector, so that didn't hurt. Like I said, it gave me the opportunity. The position that I was in, it was a division of 2 people when I first joined, and so it gave me the opportunity to experience a lot of different things: environmental resources management, contamination assessment, sustainability even, which doesn't really particularly interest me, but at the time I was getting exposed to it, and I had the opportunity to make the decision that I didn't enjoy the work after doing it. And then also the fact that I'm working actually for Erasmus alum, and she's given me a lot of opportunities to develop my career in the way that I wanted to. So when I became the environmental manager, she said, how do you want to develop the environmental division? And I came from the private sector in my previous job, and I saw kind of the environmental services that you can provide in the private sector. So what I've decided to do is actually offer those same services for the city of Miami Beach, and that's priming me, same as you, to kind of jump back into the private sector should I want to. And it's allowing me to understand where there are gaps within the private sector, because we hire a lot of environmental consultants. So it's kind of like I'm studying the field from inside, because a lot of environmental consulting jobs end up working back for the government. I was doing a lot of work with the state, et cetera. So it allows me to understand it a little bit better, and it makes those contacts within the agencies as well. So I've seen a lot of benefits to working with the public sector. That said, for me, it's a little challenging sometimes to do the customer service aspect of it. There's days when I just need a ton of coffee to kind of put me in my happy place and get me through. But the same, those days that are super rewarding, I live in Miami Beach, so for me, I'm making a difference in my own community, is kind of helps to balance that out in addition to all the other benefits that I've seen thus far.
Any other questions from the crowd? Okay. And just to give you, I'm going to answer that question as well. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself as well. So I on top of being the alumni president, I work for the Billfish Foundation, a nonprofit, fisheries nonprofit that looks to conserve billfish populations worldwide. For me, I've worked at this organization for 10 years in a nonprofit, which is not typically the easiest. And a lot of my friends always joke around where, Peter, my secretaries make more than you, yada, yada, yada. But there really is a difference between what I used to say, working for the dark side, and then working for what you believe in. And as of right now, I still really enjoy doing what I do. You have extenuating circumstances that might have you work for another organization, a private organization, that's fine. Or if you have the opportunity to build a program and really affect change within a private organization, that's great. But for an NGO that you're already passionate about, or a cause you're really passionate about, I think that if you can live comfortably, not extravagantly, that's the most important thing. My mom, to totally quote my mom, you have to live where you're happy, and it doesn't matter how much money you make, as long as you and your family are comfortable. My mom would totally say that too, but it's totally true. You have to really enjoy what you do, as long as you're getting paid enough. And at the end of the day, like you guys are saying, if you have that really good sense of like accomplishment, and as I was saying, not selling your soul to the dark side, right? On different things, but that really does make a difference. It makes you sleep easier at night. I have a couple friends that worked in corporate law, and after 2 years, they were burnt out and they quit. They completely quit. They couldn't take it anymore. They didn't like it, or they were environmental consultants, and they did really well for themselves, and then went into the public forum too. So just because you go into one side of things, just like Margarita was saying, doesn't necessarily mean you're stuck there. You can go back and forth, and you guys are 24, 25. You guys are really young. You guys can probably change at least 2 or 3 times your jobs. And just to give you another example to start to steal your thunder a little bit, is I had a job literally for 1 day, and I knew I hated it, and I quit that very day. I worked as hard as I could. I got as much money as I could for this one organization, and I knew that this is not for me. Even though it was environmental, it was an NGO, it just didn't feel right. So I quit, and the next thing I knew, I had another job already ready for me because of all these other connections that you make, not only through Rosensteel, but through whatever connections you'll make. So don't be afraid to fail, especially when you're this young. Don't be afraid to try things out. That's the most important thing. Just because you have a job at, I had a job working in retail, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be stuck in retail.
And if I may, my first job out of college I was an executive team leader for the Target football operation. So I actually worked at Target in retail.
I worked in retail
when I was 23. Before I was thinking law school was in the back of my mind, but I just worked hard for 4 years. I was ready to go out there and work, and You know, after I worked at Target for, I want to say 8 months, but I ultimately knew then it wasn't for me. You know, I actually moved back home with my parents in DC. That wasn't easy to do after 5 years in Miami. And I studied my butt off for the LSAT, and it paid off. It got me back here. So don't think that first job you take, you know, is going to lock you into a certain career path. There's, especially when you're in your 20s. I know a lot of people that have come out of I feel like very few have stuck with the very first job that they were offered. So
you want to take that experience you take from your first job, whether it's 1 day or 2 years or whatever. You take that experience and you move forward.
But I think to build on that, I think it's about being strategic, whether it's being strategic because, for example, like I'm trying to do is build this potential future career in the private sector and also give myself experience to continue in the public sector. But also it's about, if whatever your experience it is, looking at it and saying, how can I best present this for whatever job it is that I'm applying for? It's kind of like used to be kind of like Olivia Pope from Scandal, and figure out how to like twist or not incorrectly twist, but spin it in the right way. You know, I feel like sometimes people don't take the time to do that.
And I think you guys have an amazing resource again. You guys have the NPS office. You guys have GSO to work with, and even more so, you have main campus. I know it's so far away, but you have Topple, which I think has changed buildings since I was there.
yes.
Right, and that's a really unique resource that you can utilize. They have all those resources for you to work with, and and I forgot, you have Maria. A lot of you probably still know Maria. She's like the godmother still of Rasmus. She knows everything and knows everyone. She has her fingers in everything, which is great in terms of networking. Next question for you guys is, because you guys are obviously working, if you were to look at someone's resume, what are some of the things that you would look at that would help you be like, oh, you know what, that's something on their resume, or that's an experience that they had that really makes them stick out to you? What's something on their resume that would help them out?
I think definitely a dynamic individual, someone that has had a lot of experiences, that you know that they've been in this situation and fared well, and they've been in this situation. That way, no matter what you throw at them, you know that they're going to be able to make it. And writing skills. I mean, wherever you go, writing skills are very, very important. It's going to get you the job if you have to present something and you could show that you could write well. They're going to need it.
And how would you go about showing? How would they go about showing their writing? So other than, like, I asked for a writing sample. Is that what you would ask, or would you ask for a certain?
I mean, try to shine in your cover letter. Keep it short and amazing. You know, that's the first place they're going to look at. They will read cover letters. I mean, as long as they're interesting cover letters. But they'll probably read the cover letter even before they look at the resume. So just make sure that shines. And yeah, that's another thing some people will do, show me a sample of writing, but usually for the most part, it's cover letters.
The same applies for us. And I would say the biggest thing, and this is a pet peeve of everybody in the city of Miami Beach, is we're the city of Miami Beach, not the city of Miami. So if your cover letter says, I'm applying for a position at the city of Miami, I don't even keep reading. We automatically don't even look anymore.
And why would you do that?
Well, because it shows a lack of attention to detail, and it's just so basic. It's understanding the organization that you're applying for at the most basic level. So that's huge. If you're ever applying for a job at the city of Miami Beach, number one thing that you should look for, because it'll stop you in your tracks.
I would also say grammar. Grammar is really important. One comma here or apostrophe missed somewhere really makes it look bad. I remember someone applied for a job with us and they said Columbia, the clothing line, rather than Columbia, the country. And that was an automatic, see you later. That one consonant just shows, like you said, a lack of detail. And if you're serious about a job, you're serious about the job. You want to make sure that reflects well on what you're handing in every single thing. Bennett?
I haven't been in a position where I've hired a lot of people. I've applied for lots of jobs, fellowships in particular.
Well, what has helped you think? What do you think has helped you get to those positions to where
I think that two things. Number one, you hear a lot of keep your resume to one page. To me, I don't follow that. I've done way more with my life that can be put on one page,
I agree.
Agreed.
and that's worked for me. My resume now is probably like 3 pages. Don't feel like your resume has to be one page.
But
now
keep
look,
it concise though.
Keep
Yeah.
it concise. Keep it
Yeah.
concise. But especially now you're graduate students, right? So you might have publications coming out. There might be additional clubs or extracurriculars you're involved in.
Presentations. at
For instance,
conferences.
now, I'm thinking I'd probably list all the bar associations I've been involved with. And I've always put a personal interest section at the bottom too.
Yes.
And I found that sparks the interest of a lot of employers in an interview, It can be something fun. Like I say, I'm a Hurricane Club member. They're like, oh, 3 degrees from UM, you must be a big Miami fan. Yeah, I haven't missed a game in X years. That kind of automatically gets the interview off to a good start. I also enjoy reading science fiction. I put that in my resume. It's just, I'm serious, just interesting stuff about you that, kind of distinguishes you, maybe not substantively from the pack, but it'll stick in that person's mind that's reading your resume. And, to Peter's point earlier, I think that, especially in the legal world, writing ability is critical. And even if it's not necessarily requested, I would encourage you guys to include, even if it's just like an essay or writing sample with your resumes, just to show that you're not only serious about the position, but that you can write. Because any job, at least that I've had, has required some degree of writing ability, some more than others. But even just, emailing people on a day-to-day basis, you want to be that guy that doesn't a bunch of run-on sentences, can't make their point concisely, because not only does that show lack of writing ability, it shows lack of efficiency and productivity in the workplace.
And another cool thing that I didn't think was going to work out this way, but try to write for the school, blogs. I don't know if you guys still do that. Yeah, okay, blogs, things like that. You don't know how many calls I got because people would, I guess, do search words and find my blogs. I had gone to a trip to Panama and I shot a super nice picture of a humpback coming out of the water. Wrote NBC picked it up. Some Discovery, they picked it up. They put it on their website. So try to get involved in things that are going to go out to the social media. And Rasmus has a huge following. I encourage you guys to get with them and see how you can help them. Write articles, write blogs. Even if it's just quick tweets. But things that will put you out there, and also it helps out your school at the same time. So.
And it doesn't have to be with Rasmus. Obviously, there's only
Right.
so many people that can write so much content. Although I'm sure you guys always want content, like I always want content.
I just want to say though, Melissa's Rasmus blog was one of the most highly visited blogs probably in history.
Well done.
Ah.
Well done. Well done. Little plug there. Little plug.
She didn't mention that, so I just had to throw
I mean,
it in.
the other thing, just to touch upon what these guys are saying, my resume right now I think is 3 pages long, but don't have pertinent things on there. Don't say you have a pet cat, or don't say that, have pertinent things that they can associate with that. And even more so now, I even go one step further with writing samples. I not only ask for cover letter, I ask for writing sample and creative, something, at least 3 samples of writing. Because a lot of stuff that we do involves, especially that there's a lot of writing involved. And a lot of these jobs, whether you're a volunteer or intern, they want to see how confident you are. And writing ability is, especially scientific writing, is penultimate right now too. Coming out of here with being able to write in a scientific way or in a way, especially if a lot of you are marine affairs and policy, is to be able to digest extremely dense material, right? And then digest that and make it palatable for the general public. I know that was one of my goals. And reading a lot of these publications on bluefin tuna and all these other things can be somewhat mind-numbing. But when people can't understand it, and when government officials can't understand it, that's why I do what I do, so you can digest it. That's why Brendan does what he does too, where you can make it easily understandable so you can affect change, right? So just kind of piggybacking on what they said in terms of resume and writing samples, and so forth. The other thing too is the uniqueness. That's always one of my last questions for interviewers. What holds you? What makes you extremely unique? I was telling them before, your resume can be spotless. It can be fantastic. Your cover letter could be fantastic. And who's going to give references that are terrible? Okay, so all your references are going to probably be great. The one things that I always look for as an employer are what sets yourself apart. I remember actually with Dan, one of the things set him apart was his ability to do media and video. He did a ton of amazing things for us because I knew he was good at it and he did a really good job. He set himself apart. So if there are things like that, or you are a creative writer, or you happen to be you're captain of a team where you started this club, that shows a lot of different aspects of responsibility, structure, and stuff like that. At least for me, that really helps you stick out from the other applicants that are out there.
Giving a new spin actually to the 3-page resume conversation, I would say that it's not just a section where you can put all of this fun stuff. Like for example, for me, my resume, I have like 1,000 different resumes, and each one is tailored specifically to whatever position it is that I'm applying for. Right now, I'm looking for a communications intern with environmental science background. And so, for example, if I was applying for my own internship position, my resume wouldn't necessarily just talk about the environmental science work that I do, but I do a lot of freelance writing beyond my work with the city. And so I would put those as well in there. And even if it wasn't a paid freelance writing position, if like for example, you wrote blogs, you can put that in there even if it's not part of your formal environmental science resume. I think taking the time to look before you apply to each position and seeing what nuanced hobbies or even skills you can throw in there is very important. And that'll help you kind of set you apart in a more formalized fashion.
It also showed the employer that you're taking the time to say, I think I put down my initial resume had I worked in retail, and one of my friends said, why would you put that on there? That doesn't, going to the environmental field has nothing to do with working in retail. I said, actually, you do a lot. It shows that you have discipline, you have structure, and all these other things that you can follow direction really well. And for a lot of employers, that's really important, especially initially. And even more so what Margarita was saying about hiring graduate level interns or volunteers or for staff. It's really important. And once again, these two would know is that your drive is really important too. Showing that you have that drive. You don't have to be, I feel like undergraduates, at least the majority of them, have to be handheld. And as employers, you do not want to, I don't want to handhold. My office is small enough that I cannot handle it. They give you a structure, a really good structure of what you need to do. Most employers, if they see that you follow direction really well and you have a really good sense of self-worth and drive, that's something that really gives them support too. Any other questions? Please.
Obviously, I'm not a student, but I want to important to you guys. What happens if you're applying to a company that you really want to get into, and let's say your resume is grammatically correct, but you keep getting rejected, or you don't get callbacks, or you follow the emails, and they give a position to somebody else, but you really want to get into that company? What's your advice to that individual in that position?
I would reach out to whoever was the hiring person and offer to buy them coffee even, and just go sit down and say, hey, listen, I was very interested in this position. I want to understand why you didn't hire me or what I can do to build my resume to be a suitable candidate in a future opening. But I love coffee. I've already made that very clear.
Yeah, you don't give up. Once again, it's showing that employer that you have drive. I think I had a person apply for internship at least 3 times with us. It shows your initiative, your drive, and like you said, calling them back, saying thank you for your time. Thank you cards, I would say, and thank you messages are really understated.
Handwritten.
Handwritten, yes. If you can do that, it really is, because everything now is email, and getting something personal. I can tell you, there's only 2 people that gave me thank you notes following their interviews. Sorry, guys. You weren't there. But those 2 people stuck out, and that doesn't happen anymore. So I know it might be a little bit of a pain, and if your cursive is not great, then do it in print. But it really does. It does mean a lot even though it might not seem like it, at least to me, it does mean a lot to show that you're taking that extra time to, no matter what, you're going forth and putting forth the effort to really get that job that you want, or the position within that portfolio. Any other questions? Yes.
What is a good example of a writing sample? I have one publication, but not all the jobs I apply for are necessarily have anything to do with marine science. Is my publication a valid writing sample for this kind of position?
That's a good question. I would probably say no because it's probably too long. I don't know that for sure.
How long is your publication? 12?
Yeah, that's long. That's long for a writing sample. Now, employers have their own pet peeves. Maybe they want to see that. Or what I always do when I submit a writing sample, I should say, is I have additional writing samples available upon request because I have tons of stuff. I mean, what I ultimately ended up using was a personal statement that I initially prepared when I applied for the Nous Fellowship the second time, which I was extremely proud of, spent months working on. And there was a very concise word limit for it. And it was broad enough in that it touched on my law experience, my policy experience with the Billfish Foundation, for instance, while also getting the employer to know me, the person, a little bit. So if you've ever prepared a personal statement, I mean,
To get into school, you had to prepare.
yeah, I mean, that's, I feel like if I was hiring somebody, like a new legal assistant, that'd be funner to read than like a 15-page publication on coral reefs. But I don't know, again, that's just me. Otherwise, I would say the further you get out of graduate school, try to stay away from simple papers that you got an A on or something like that. That might work for entry-level positions. I mean, I know that, for example, with my summer associateship, so law students typically, work for 3 months at a firm over the summer. Our first year writing brief was an acceptable writing sample. But I was in school, they wanted something, or my subsequent employers wanted something more than school papers. And now I certainly would not give a school paper. Again, for me, it's a little different in that there's confidentiality issues and work product privileges in the legal world. But ultimately, once you do get a little bit of job or internship experience under your belt, I don't know, Margarita, what do you think? I mean, would you like to see something that maybe they read at a prior job, or?
I think just based on who we usually hire, because we don't hire very frequently and it's mostly interns, we accept papers from class. I think the last writing sample I ever had to produce for an environmental science position was just a 2-page paper that I'd written for a class. That said, I think now if I was asked for a writing sample for a future job, I'd probably take something that I've written in my current job.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me ask a question now. In this case, every publication would have an abstract kind of section. Can you just use that to show what?
Personally, too short for me because the abstract is, while the abstract can be good, it doesn't show the full breadth of your writing sample, your writing ability. And I wouldn't, sorry again, just to steal the question, but I would still keep that publication handy because, for example, there might be crazies like me that might want to read it and ask for that secondary or third example. So don't, just leave it to the side for now in regards to that. But yeah, the abstract is too short because that's typically, I want to say maybe 250 to 350 words. It's just too short. I think typically writing samples are now at least 500 to 750. A good concise one will be about that, but don't use that as a standard, right? Just understand that most employers don't want to read and don't have the time to read the 12, 13 page, 20 page paper. Yeah, don't send your internship report.
And again, it's hard for me to really answer your question as accurately as I'd like to, given that I just don't hire a lot of people. But, it seems to me that there's probably not a lot of harm in asking the employer
No, it's not.
what sort of writing sample they're looking for.
And most
I mean-
employers will ask. At least I do.
Yeah.
I ask them for scientific and typically they're creative. I'd like to see the creative side of things.
Yeah.
Also, though, to step back a little bit in terms of the publications, actually one person was extremely proud of their dissertation, but they took a small chapter of the dissertation, and they were extremely proud of, and that's what they submitted, and it was fantastic. So you maybe not submit the entire publication, but if you're really proud of the dissertation or a paper, that a chapter in a paper that you've written, feel free to send that. You feel that confident. You can definitely do that. At least on my end. That's fine. So. Please.
For those of you which have had experience with slightly different careers and jobs along your journey, what did you find was the best approach to do that effectively if such a thing exists? Was it you're on a set path and perhaps other opportunities came up and maybe you wanted to take a step back, really learn a bit more about that, perhaps leaving for a year or two work from that? Or were you able to utilize the skills you had in a certain job set? In graduate school, you often don't realize the amount of different skills you can pick up, which can open up a variety of different careers and paths and stuff. So, were you able to make those shifts effectively?
Personally, I did both. When I got out of undergrad and I went to communications, I was working in TV stations, radio stations. It was pure communications. So I actually took a step back and decided to go into the MPS program here. But then when I got out of MPS and I got the job in up there in Destin with the Gulf Coast Community Life Center, now that they're on hold, I had to kind of shift gears. In shifting gears, what I used is everything that I got out of my graduate school and my best assets that I got out of Gulf Coast Community Life Center, and that's what I presented to the new employer. And so both ways could work.
Absolutely. I'll build on that a little bit. Given that I have job jumped a little bit, I started out more in the policy world, of course. And now I'm in the legal world where I don't get to do nearly as much policy as I like. As a matter of fact, my boss likes to constantly remind me that we're not here to make policy. We're just here to help the client. But I'll give you an example. Going back to my time with the Billfish Foundation, I made the interviewers aware that, look, I can relate to my clients because I understand the GIS work they're doing, given that I've made GIS maps. I know what a billfish is. Seriously, in the case of the Office of Management and Budget, I'm aware of the challenges for managing public lands, which I think is a very understated and very undervalued challenge that not a lot of people think about when they go into the public sector. I mean, think about all our parks and the deferred maintenance backlog it has, So even though I represent the parks is one of my clients now, the fact that I could tell the county attorney that I understood and could empathize with his concern with the deferred maintenance backlog and attack addressing that from a legal standpoint, or even from a budgetary standpoint based on my knowledge of how carryover and appropriations work, etc., can really make a difference. And final point, retail's come up a few times. I still bring up my experience at Target. The last job interview I had was 2 years ago, but let's say I had a job interview tomorrow. I would still bring that up because it taught me how to lead people. I was in charge of a team. Teamwork was critical. And when you're accountable for people underneath you, it totally changes the dynamic of a working environment. So I don't have that burden now, but that's just one example of how working in retail can be extremely challenging, and where if I were now to be interviewed for a managerial position in my office, that's something I would allude back to, given that I had experience with leadership and working with others.
Once again, this kind of goes back to one of the original comments earlier on, which is don't be afraid of the jobs that you take, because you can take a lot of things and a lot of skills out of them Same thing, just to give you my example too, is even though I've worked for the Billfish Foundation for 10 years, over 10 years now, my initial thing was I was in aquaculture. I worked overseas for a year in aquaculture, decided that was not for me. I came back and I did outdoor ed for like 3 years, which was an amazing time. Had so much fun. I learned a lot. I taught a lot, and I had to look over hundreds of kids all the time. And I grew a stronger appreciation for the ocean and the water, which sounds extremely cheesy, but it's very true. But then after that, I worked for AmeriCorps. And if you don't know what AmeriCorps is, it's like the Peace Corps, but for domestic stuff. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. I hold a lot of weight to that experience there. If you have the ability to do it, it doesn't pay that much, but it's an amazing, amazing experience to where you can learn a lot about the area that you're in. They luckily had an environmental or water hydrology side of things. And then after that, when my family started seeing that I was taking a strong interest in policy and essentially reading textbooks for fun, my family said to go back to school because you're essentially wasting your time doing this. So that's how I came back here and started working following my graduation here. So kind of building off everything that your question and what these guys are saying and the original comments before, really, please don't be afraid to fail or test out these first couple full-time jobs that you'll have, because not only will you find skills that you didn't know you'd learn, but even more so is that you'll probably unknowingly befriend and network up with a lot of people to where later on they can help you find a job, or they can help you lead this way or that, or potentially be a reference for you. They're that good of a boss or that good of a colleague of yours too. So, sorry, long-winded answer. And Margaret, I'm sorry, do you have anything?
I mean, I would just mirror what Melissa said. I think it's simultaneous, is that you leave yourself, if there's something that you like for example, I love environmental science, all aspects of it. So I'm leaving myself a window of opportunity to always be able to move amongst them, which is actually why I left the private sector, because I felt pigeonholed in just NEPA work, which I enjoyed, but it wasn't the only thing that I ever wanted to do for the rest of my life. So it was about making sure that I'm constantly staying up to date on everything environmental science that I would ever want to do, leaving that window open, and then also simultaneously looking for opportunities in professional development. And that's another reason why I love working for Miami Beach, is because I've been able to get a LEED AP certification, which is for green building, in case you don't know. I've been able to go to a lot of different conferences. I decided that I wanted to be a freelance writer on the side, and I asked for opportunities to do communications work within the office. So it's about, leveraging my current position, whether it's through financially to get to trainings, or because I'm asking for opportunities to kind of develop skills and things that I may want to do in the future, and keeping up with those skills. So I would say it's simultaneous, like you said.
We have time for a couple more questions before we can we'll move over to the comments. Does anyone else have any questions for the panelists? All right, I think I might have one more. Let's see. Let's do that one. Actually, I think I asked you all the questions I wanted to ask you, or everyone else is here.
I'd like to make a brief closing.
Go ahead, please.
Statement, if I could.
Yeah.
Such a lawyer.
No, but really, because I think it's a scary time coming out of grad school without a job. It really is. I've been there. I can't speak to the two lovely ladies to the left of me, but I know it's very nerve-wracking. Let's face it, the job market's not great. I had everything set up coming out of this program. I had secured my fellowship with the White House Office of Management and Budget, and I thought, as a finalist, great grades, great essay, great references, I thought for sure I was going to get the Nous Fellowship. It was the second time I had applied. On my drive back to DC to start my OMB fellowship, I got a phone call saying, hey, you didn't get it. It was crushing. I mean, I had for weeks I reflected on whether this degree was really worth it or not, and what I was going to do next, even though I had already started with ONB. But in the long run, here I am 2 years later. I'm doing a job I love. I'm making a lot more money than I probably would be if I had done the Nouse Fellowship.
For sure.
And ironically, we're getting Nouse Fellows applying to our office now. So it's not the guaranteed, I'm not hiring them, I just know this from my boss. It's not the guaranteed pathway.
I was about to say,
to
you're saying
success.
you took my spot? No?
Yep. Well,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying that just because you don't get that job that you're aiming for or you fail, it's all going to work out. All of my friends from my MPS class a few years ago have jobs and are happy with what they're doing. You guys are at an amazing school, working with amazing people, and I can attest to the reputation of this university, not just here, but up north as well, given that up in DC, even people go, oh, hey, you went to the University of Miami, not just Miami, the Marine Science School, isn't that one of the best in the country? So your degree is going to take you where it's going to take you places. Whether you get there tomorrow or a year from now, it's hard to say, but I would just reiterate not to be discouraged at all if you don't get that fellowship or job that you're going for. Then it's going to work out. And that goes for my friends from law school too. I have friends that finished in like the bottom 10% of the class that are now doing amazing things. I mean, it just takes time sometimes. So be patient. There's a lot of different opportunities out there, and a lot of it's timing too, you know?
And who you know.
And who you know. And so to, you know, Melissa's point earlier, just getting yourself out there. Funny story, I got this job at the county attorney's office through a guy that my dad met golfing, a lawyer down here that he hooked me up with. And he didn't have any sort of connection with the Pinellas County Attorney's Office. But I went out to coffee with him one day just to get to know him. And he monitored the Florida bar ads more closely than I did. And he said, hey, Brennan, the Pinellas County Attorney's Office is hiring. Seems like this could be a good fit for your position. So I just applied online. Bang, that was it. So it wasn't like a direct connection. It's not like he said, hey, my office is hiring, come on in. But just the fact that I got to know him a little bit, he was looking out for me, and he reached out to me about the position, and it turned out to be a great fit. You know, I wasn't happy about leaving Miami initially. That's one other final message I'd like to leave you guys with. Might need to relocate, give it a chance. I know Miami is beautiful, but I can tell you other cities have a lot to offer too. And if that's what it takes for you to launch your career, I would encourage you not to be afraid of relocation.
One other quick thing, unless you guys have something else you want to add to that. One other thing too that Brendan actually made me think of something really important. As well as getting a degree from this, it's called the jewel of the school, right? It really is. It's the best part of coming to the University of Miami. You've got the family aspect, you've got the networking aspect, but it can work in both ways. So you need to be careful with how you present yourself, because you never know who's watching. And I don't mean to sound a little, I don't mean to sound like a little, you have to act professional. That's what I'm trying to say. When you're out and about, you're not out with friends, you know, either in Brickell or Grove. Yes, have a good time, but also understand that there are potential people you might run into. I have great examples that I don't want to talk about in public right now of where that has hurt not only myself, but other people. So you need to be very, very careful. One of our board members, actually, Lauren Ordway, she got her position just randomly because someone overheard her talking about what her passion is. And they basically, I think, once again, it deals with coffee. She was at a coffee shop like Starbucks or something like that, and she can tell the story a lot better than I can. But she basically had him sat down meeting with him afterwards, and she talked about what her passion was and where she came from. She got a job like that, and it just happened to be talking with a friend at a Starbucks or something like that. So just be mindful. You wear Erasmus with you everywhere. You wear the University of Miami with you everywhere. wear with pride. Have fun, obviously, but when you're in public, just also you're now coming to the age of, especially if you're looking in this area, there are people like myself that happen to go out as well once in a while, or there are other people, friends of friends, or that, oh, I recognize you. Oh, you were that person. Oh, you were that person. There's a very big distinction between that. And like I said, I only say it from experience. So I know it's funny, but at the same sense, I do take that very seriously. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this time. We'll have some time at the wet lab. If you have personal questions, please take their information down if you want. And thank you very much to our panelists.
Thank you.
And thank you all for coming. I've got cards I'll give to you guys. Please email me with any questions about anything. It could be just about life or something. I always want to help out fellow Erasmus alums in particular.
And this is what I'm talking about, though. Brendan and I are very akin to the same thing, to where we want to help out Erasmus people. We know the professors that you've gone through, and we can talk to them personally of what kind of student you were. That's the benefit of being an alum here. So yeah, the whole point, and obviously Melissa and Margarita as well, these guys are taking their time out of their busy work schedule to come here. That shows the love that we have for you guys. So don't take that for granted. Don't be too shy to reach out either today, tomorrow, the next day. He definitely needs it, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you guys are ever in the Tampa area, I'll take you out to lunch or something.
He always goes to games too.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I've run into some of you. I heard. But like Peter said, conduct yourself professionally.
Brendan. I will thank you everyone for coming, and thank you for MPS for hosting as well.
Yes.
Guys, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
And we'll see you at lunch.